YouTube, Facebook, and Tumblr fans, this is Midnight Strike 3625 back again to answer your questions. So, if you remember, a couple weeks ago I actually posted my third Q&A, little initial prompt video, where you guys could comment and ask me anything and I could just answer it within a few weeks. So, now I'm actually posting that video and I will be answering all of the questions that I got within a timely manner. So if you posted it first, obviously I'm going to answer it first and all that jazz. So without further ado, here we go. And the first question is from a user named Jeff Van Gundy, and he asks, what is your opinion on Kid Rock? Well, first of all, I gotta comment on your username. Is that actually the account you normally use for just commenting on YouTube randomly? Because Jeff Van Gundy is actually a famous basketball coach. And yes, I had to look that up, sadly, because I'm not really a sports fanatic. But I do recognize that people are actually using it for, like, say, Don Matrick. They'll make an account for Don Matrick. They'll make an account for Solid Snake or, like, characters from the Sly Cooper series. I've seen that before in video games, but never for sports stuff. So I don't know, whatever. As for your question, though, Kid Rock, American Badass, and Rock and Roll Jesus. That's pretty much the extent of what I know of him. All Summer Long and the American Badass song. So other than that, I just don't really know much about him, so I can't really have any opinion on him. I've heard really negative things about him, really positive things. I've heard he was in a sex tape with Creed singer Scott Stapp, so I don't know. I've just heard things about him. I haven't really heard his music per se, aside from those two, mentioned songs. So, maybe I'll take a look at some of his albums here pretty soon, but that remains to be seen. So, the next question is from this guy, and he asks, what is the band that got you into metal and music? Well, man, that's a good question, and actually it's a two-parter. And the band that actually got me into music as a whole, I know what you're going to say after this, you're going to hate me for it, but Creed. Yeah, that's right. Most people actually lump Creed with bands like Nickelback in being, very, very commercial, very mainstream, very radio-oriented, radio-friendly, whatever you want to call it, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, they do have some radio hits on their later material, such as, Weathered and Full Circle, but if you take a look at their earliest releases, My Own Prison and Human Clay, the latter of which was actually my introduction to the band, you'll find that they actually have a very hard edge to them. So, a lot of people actually also criticize Stapp for sounding too much like Eddie Vedder, and I see it, but there's a lot of differences between the two as well. So, getting into that, more on that later maybe. I got Human Clay, or I heard Human Clay moreover, when my brother got it for his, I believe it was his 7th birthday in, I believe 2001-ish? No, it was 2003, 2002, somewhere along those lines. But anyways, he got it, and I was about 10 years old. I was about 9 or 10 years old, and hearing that for the first time, just, the sound of the guitars, the crunch, the heaviness, it just captivated me. I don't know, it just caught me off guard, and I really hadn't heard anything like it before that point. I had just listened to basically just country, which is what my parents listened to, or which was my dad listened to anyways. But, getting into that, though, it pretty much just, it took me by storm, and that's how I got into rock. I actually sought out, Alter Bridge's CDs, which didn't really have the same effect on me until a little bit later, but it wasn't until 2006, on my 14th birthday, when I actually got the CD, my first ACDC CD, Back in Black, and that pretty much took the world by storm, took my musical world by storm. And through that, I discovered the band that got me into metal, which is the second part of your question, Metallica. My first metal album was the Black Album, basically, or as most people called it back then, Metallica, or self-titled, whatever you want to call it. But anyways, I was basically taking musical suggestions, and whatever it was, I would just go out and buy the album when I actually had substantial funds for that. So through that, I discovered so much music, and it was basically just me going back and forth, and I lived out in the middle of nowhere, so this was just amazing for me. Just listening to this music, and every time I got a new CD, it was just the thrill of just unpackaging it, unwrapping it, going and putting it in to my stereo, ripping it to the computer, putting it on my MP3 player, all that. It was just nostalgia. It's amazing. It just felt just like a breath of fresh air every time I heard a new AC/DC track, every time I heard some Kiss music, Every time I heard Judas Priest on the radio, it was just like, I have that song. It sounds amazing. I don't know. But, like I said, Master of Puppets is definitely, what really got me into metal. Because I had heard And Justice for All before that. Wasn't a huge fan of prog metal, but then I got into, And Justice, Master of Puppets, moreover, and actually just slowly worked my way back towards it. I actually thought that And Justice for All was a little bit boring at first, shoot me later. I actually really love the album now. Like I said, probably 9.5 out of 10 if I were to review it right on the spot, but that's for a different time. Long answer, long story short, Creed got me into music, ACDC pretty much refined it, and then Metallica was the gateway into the metal life that is my life now, the metal music story that is my life. So I like all different kinds of music now, but I mainly go towards hard rock, heavy metal, thrash, stuff like that basically. So thank you very much. That's pretty much all there is to your question. So the next question is... let's see here. The next question is by Iron Metal 222, or as we like to just call him, Logan Moore. So, go sub to him, he's an awesome guy. Congrats on the 150 subs, my brother. Do you think that you will ever cut your beautiful locks, or do you plan on keeping it long forever? Hashtag short hair master race. I've been noticing a trend lately. Oh, yeah, no, gotta address the new me. Yeah, I just actually recorded the last couple parts few hours before I actually am recording this one, after which I got my brand spanking new look. I actually noticed a trend on YouTube lately that people either have hats, short hair, or sunglasses. I actually decided to combine all three into my brand new Midnight Strike look. Here is the brand new face of Midnight Strike 3625. Tell me if you like it. Keep calm and rock on, guys. Thank you. Next question. Another question from Iron Moore. Haha, but my serious question is, what is your ultimate goal as a reviewer on YouTube? Have you set a certain goal for an amount of subs or views, or do you not care about that as much? Thanks, bro. Well, actually, when I first started, it was just a means to get my opinion out there. It was another creative outlet for me to take advantage of, as prior to that, I actually wrote songs. Prior to that, I wrote what I would consider to be short stories. So it was just another creative outlet for me to express, this time, my opinions on music and video games, of course, because those are two of my main interests. So, worship music had just come out in, I believe it was September 13th, 2011 or so, and I had reviewed that on my personal channel, which is now deleted, and this was basically a decision I made because I didn't want to review under my real name. I wanted to actually start over as Midnight Strike 3625, a decision that I had been contemplating for about 6 or so months, actually, a very long time. I didn't want to start over because I had about 30-some subs that took me around 5 years to accumulate, because back then, you had the friends, you had the subs, and, back when YouTube was more like Facebook, more or less. So people would just sub to you for no reason, or just because, they liked what comments you posted, not content. Because I didn't have any content back then. But I had 30 subs for basically just doing nothing. So I really didn't want to start over at the bottom of the barrel, but it is what it is. I actually started over and gained 5 or 10 subs right off the bat just for sending out a message saying who I was. So people were interested, and they actually said, yeah, your content is cool. So, they subbed again. So some of my earlier reviews, Kicking and Screaming, Sebastian Bach, Van Halen, A Different Kind of Truth, as well as the worship music review that I actually re-recorded under my Midnight Strike name, are just really fond memories and reminders of what I used to be. So, you can still check out the originals for those reviews, not the worship music one, but you can check out the previously mentioned ones on this channel still, because I just reposted them. So I hope that answered your question. I really just don't have a goal for subs or anything. I just do it for fun. So the next question is by Thomas DeRockaholic11, who asks, congrats on reaching your 150 subs, dude. Thank you. I have 2 questions for you, and I'll answer the first one right now. What is your favorite ACDC? And he meant to say ACDC album, which I later confirmed in a conversation. Well, Thomas, your answer is right here. Fucking Powerage. My favorite ACDC album of all time is their 1978 album, Powerage, because it's just so bluesy, yet raw, and appealing, and hard, and just I could name off a million adjectives to describe this album, but it wouldn't do it justice. So I'm basically just gonna say it's good. Check it out. It's 8 songs. I would personally, like I said, it's my favorite. Give it a 10 out of 10. It even has an awesome disc here if you look at it right here. See, it is holographic. A holographic version of the cover, which actually has some wear and tear on it because I have had it since 2007. So, like I said, most influential band for me, ACDC, one of my favorites, and that is Powerage. So, check it out if you haven't already. Now, Thomas's second question is, who's your favorite guitarist in metal? Yeah, I have no idea how to answer that question. You caught me completely off guard. You know, there's so many different influential guitarists, it's really hard to choose between, you know, even 2, 3, even upwards of, 10. It's just really hard to narrow them down, because I have so many of them. You know, on one hand, you've got the simplistic guitar players like Angus Young. On the other hand, you have, Dream Theater, Bullet for My Valentine, John Petrucci from Dream Theater, of course, Dave Mustaine, Megadeth. You have all those bands that are just really technical. So I actually am really torn between Angus Young, Dave Mustaine, and John Petrucci. John Petrucci has amazing licks in Images and Words, Train of Thought, A Dramatic Turn of Events, and when Dream and Day Unite, all those amazing Dream Theater albums. He just shreds it. He goes on for upwards of 14 minutes even on tracks on Train of Thought. So, I mean, you got to give him some credit. And then there is Dave Mustaine, who, of course, is one of the founding members of one of the bands of the Big Four, And then there is Angus Young, who, while he's not the most technical guitarist, technicality does not equal talent. Technical prowess, even, does not equal talent. I mean, you don't have to be completely technical in order to be a talented musician. Angus Young, while he's simplistic, makes every single note count. And, being one of my, few top favorite bands, or used to be, for ACDC, I think that says something. So I'm going to go with a tie between Angus Young, Dave Mustaine, and John Petrucci. So the next question is by the Strong Boys 19, and he asks, "Congrats, brother. What is your favorite game of all time? Are there albums that you listen to while playing games?" Well, my favorite game of all time has to be Metal Gear Solid 2. Of course, Metal Gear Solid 3 comes close, but just in 2, the themes and the tones and the character development is just practically amazing. It's just too much to put into words. I mean, I know, yeah, it has its flaws here and there, but overall, Metal Gear Solid 2 has to be my favorite. And if this counts as one game, this is my favorite game of all time right here, because it includes my top 2 games, Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3, with a little bonus of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and of course on Metal Gear Solid 3 it includes Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake for the MSX2. So, now, it's kind of funny that you asked me, do I listen to albums while playing video games? Normally, no. I want to actually continue to experience the game the way it was meant to be experienced, play it the way it was meant to be played, all that jazz, and listen to all the dialogue and everything just to make sure I don't miss anything. But today I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2 because, I've already played it a million times, listening to the new Newstead album, which actually is just streaming today. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. And then the next few questions are going to be from longtime subscriber, The Rocker213, and he says, "Congrats for making it to 150, that's great, thank you very much." And his first question is, what are some games you are anticipating? Well, it's no secret that I'm a Metal Gear Solid fan, so of course I am going to be greatly anticipating Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Can't wait for the new open-world stealth game, so can't wait to see how that pans out. I mean, it's never really been done before, albeit, except for Dishonored, but that really wasn't open world. I'm hoping it's somewhat like that, but from the E3 trailers we were shown, it just looks fantastic and mind-blowing in every way. So other than that, that aside, I pre-ordered a PS4, which is already hopefully common knowledge in my Xbox One versus video with PS4, but I pre-ordered that with Watch Dogs, so I'm going to be getting that on launch day, or at least somewhat close to launch day, so I'll let you guys know how it is. I'll probably do an unboxing video of my PlayStation 4, so when it gets closer to the holiday season, be on the lookout for that. That's pretty much it. Watch Dogs, the new Metal Gear Solid, stuff like that. I don't know. What is your favorite movie? Another good question, because as much as I rant on and on about music and video games, I've never actually talked about movies. I've never talked about film or anything like that. So basically, it all boils down to this. I don't really watch that much TV. In fact, I don't really watch movies in general, but the few that I actually do watch, I heavily enjoy. So here we go. Terminator 2, the Back to the Future trilogy, a few of the X-Men movies, Oblivion, which actually just came out a few months ago. I went to go see it with my girlfriend. That's actually one of my tops now because it's actually a really, really decent movie, surprisingly. I went to it just expecting sheer dumb fun, but it actually made me think about stuff. So it was just a really decent, unique movie. So more probably Liar Liar. That's one of them that's just kind of, dumb comedic fun, but it's just really funny and entertaining to watch. Tommy Boy is really good. You just can't beat the classics. That's really all I have to say on that. So aside from those, I really don't watch that much TV or movies, but those are a few honorable mentions. And are there any more albums coming out this year that you're waiting for? To be honest with you, aside from the new Newstead and Dream Theater albums, I really don't know, but I might find something new and exciting and fresh, so you'll have to watch my reviews to find out. And the last question is from Mike Stout, and he asks me, why do you like metal so much? He needs a creative and true answer. Well, one reason that I like rock and metal over other types of music is its individuality. Every single band has its own distinct and unique style about it, because, a lot of bands end up sounding the same sometimes, but usually in rock and metal, you can find a diverse, distinct sound in between different bands. Each band has, its own tuning, its own guitar settings, its own, vocal range and everything. Everyone has different technical abilities. Some go for the more simplistic, others go for more technical. And, when compared to genres such as country, where everything seems just formulaic by comparison, rock and metal it's only natural that for me it comes out on top. When I first discovered like I said, my Creed CD, as well as my Bon Jovi and ACDC, it just blew my mind. I had been listening to country up until that point, but everything just really sounded the same. It sounded bland. I was longing for something different. And then rock and metal came along, and it just blew my world. It blew my mind, practically. So, I am continuing to finding new bands. I continue to find new bands. Let me rephrase that. I continue to find new bands every, pretty much practically every monthly. And each and every one of them have their own distinct sound and own distinct, song structures, and each add different elements and new things to the table that I really hadn't thought of before or knew that I would be listening to in anything. So, I know that I kind of stuttered a lot through that answer, so please forgive me for that, but that's really the only reason, or one of the reasons, one of the very many reasons why I like metal and rock so much. So, with that, yeah. For those of you who thought that I would really be stupid enough to cut my hair, no. No. Logan, to answer your question, I will not be cutting my hair. My hair will be grown out till the day I die. I will have long, beautiful locks of white or gray hair, and it will be awesome. So, with that, thank you very much for submitting your questions. This is Midnight Strike 3625. Keep calm and rock on.